Hey Alex,
What is it, Tad?
let me tell you about a little game about a little guy named Hollow Knight. So, Hollow Knight is one of the best Kickstarter games that's ever come out, I think. Is that safe to say, Alex?
The only other thing you can really compare it to would be like, off the top of my head, Shovel Knight. Both night-themed games.
Yeah, there's a theme here. Okay. All right, so I've got a theory. There's two things you need to make a successful Kickstarter game. Number 1, that's terror. Number 2, have your game involve knights in the title. For example, Shovel Knight, awesome Mega Man styled platformer that was really really fun. And I'm someone who didn't give a fuck about Mega Man, and I really really enjoyed it. Hollow Knight, super super good Metroidvania. Fight Knight, which is an upcoming game where like I don't know much except the fucking awesome name of Fight Night, and that you just go through and you punch shit, and it's like, I mean, the fact that it's called Fight Night, you don't hold a sword, you just punch the fuck out of enemies in a first person brawler, already means this game is going to be successful. And then the other thing you need is you need a budget of like maximum 80,000. If you go higher than that, you're going to Schaefer it up.
See, it's funny you mentioned a budget of $80,000 because Hollow Knight was made with a budget of only $50,000. In fact, Undertale was also made on a budget of $50,000, and we all know how successful that game came out. So I think that actually 50,000 might be the sweet spot.
They should just put a fucking cap on Kickstarter for 50,000.
If you have a 2D indie game, just say, no, you're getting 50,000. That's what you need to be successful.
So, and then me and Alex are talking about this. I think we came to an agreement about. Okay, you're an indie studio, and you have this really cool idea for a game, but you know that you have to have a lot of money to make that really cool idea. And so, Hollow Knight, because I read this is how Hollow Knight started. It started as an idea for, hey guys, let's make a procedurally generated Metroidvania, and so they did that. And it had 3 areas, and it sucked, but they're like, okay. So we understand that now, but we have a starting point here, and so like okay, so you're gonna get 3 things because 7. We're not Nintendo. We can't make you get 7 items. That's ridiculous. So we're going with 3, and so like okay, you got the fire area, you got the grass area, and you got the bone area, and then they're like okay, this is all coming together, and so those are the 3 things they started with, and then they're like okay. We're going to create a game around this small of a scope. And then, oh shit, we got enough money. Let's start expanding. Now, the opposite of this is when you broken age it, when you pull a Schaefer. We're like, okay, I have this. All right, so I have this huge idea. We're going to do all this shit. And it's like, okay, all of that sounds awesome and really cool. I can't wait to see it. Oh, we ran out of money because I'm Tim Schafer. Oh, okay, well, let's start cutting out content here. I mean, I don't want to take it out because it's really cool, but you got to start taking out the least good content that we have because like all this stuff is really cool. We've got all these really great ideas, but we just can't afford it. So, okay, we cut this here, cut this here, cut this here, and then you end up with a game that feels like it's missing something, like Broken Age. Broken Age I had fun with it, but I could tell that it was a Kickstarter game. How? Because it felt like it was missing something. That thing it was missing was you had a story written for a game that was 3 times the size. And then you cut out bits and then worked the game around that. When you like the Shovel Knight and Hollow Knight style of we're starting from a small point and then we build outwards so the game feels right. It feels correct.
See, it's, I mentioned this in one of the previous episodes, but you basically are copying me when I said fucking, or you're just repeating me when I say, everything about the game, it looked good, it sounded good, and most importantly, it felt good. If you didn't tell me this was a Kickstarter game, I would not have known. Because it feels like a tight, solid experience. Unlike most Kickstarter games, where a Kickstarter game feels kind of like Mushroom Men for the Wii.
Oh,
Because it feels like they feel like, well, this game looks pretty mediocre and plays kind of meh. Like this is a pretty 6 out of 10. But hey, the idea and the character designs are pretty cool, I guess. You know what?
like you can tell
that's what
they put their heart into it, but also like it's not that great of a game.
Yeah, that's what Kickstarter is. Kickstarter is Mushroom Men for the Nintendo Wii. If you're making a 3D game on Kickstarter, the best you're gonna be is Mushroom Men. Go look it up if there even is one. Look up a playthrough of Mushroom Men on the Wii, And if there's not one, I'll fucking make one. I will rebuy it off of eBay. Fucking, we will open the Let Me Tell You About Gaming channel. Hey guys, let me tell you about this little game called Mushroom Men. And I will play through that whole thing just so people can see, like, where there were so many cool ideas, and it all just felt meh. Not even bad, just like, whatever. Like, this was a, you know, shovelware indie game, you know? A shovelware, like, Wii game, you know?
Yeah, some of it comes from, like... Okay, so one of the things you can do in Mushroom Men is you could jump and then you could glide in the air. But the gliding felt really weird. Because you jumped, and then you got, like, you had a set gliding speed, and so you would either speed way, way up, or slow down to that speed, no matter how fast you were going, as soon as you pressed the A button again in the air. And it felt gross. It felt like Doomfist's E in Overwatch. I did not like it. And then there's some things that a lot of, like, Mushroom Men, it had these really fun areas. Like, okay, you're in a giant shed because you're the size of a mushroom, and so you get to, like, knock these things over and start like a gas engine so you can pull this thing up. But at the same time, it was lacking a lot of the direction that a well-made 3D game has, where you go up on a like, okay, I would walk up a plank of wood, and visually, you know, the idea was like, oh, there's a bunch of wood that fell here, you know, a bunch of wood that fell from, like, the ceiling because there's a hole in it. Okay, which direction do I go? So in a well-designed game, I'm going to go up there and immediately know this is the direction they want me to go in, because either, you know, let's say I saw, like, say I was tracking a bug who stole my Super Mario 64 star. Okay, I go up there, I see some, like, he's a dung beetle or something. I see some, like, brown smears over there. Okay, I know he's over there. And then, you know, immediately go the opposite way because I'm me, and I just have to explore the exact opposite way the game tells me to go.
Kind of like, in Hollow Knight, when you first start out and, like, you going through Green Path, you could see Hornet, like, staying still somewhere, and then she runs off, kind of saying to you, oh yeah, you gotta go that way and follow her. Because, you know, where else are you gonna go?
Yeah, it's a little hint that, hey, here's where you have to go. And a lot of, you know, I think a lot of that, like, that's really subtle stuff that shows up when you're making a game that you're not going to be able to... If you're thinking about a game, thinking about making a world, you're not going to be thinking about these subtle gameplay hints and cues within the world. You know, that's something that comes from experience.
I wouldn't really call Hornet running away really subtle, but there are more subtle things that I liked in Hollow Knight with its world design. If I can move off of Mushroom Men finally, is if I can get off that shit for a second, fucking, there's a subtle transition in every area of Hollow Knight that you might have noticed. Is the most noticeable one is when you first go to the Hive in Kingdom's Edge with the bees. When you break open the wall, you're in, like, this big gray area. But once you go into the Hive, like the entrance, the screen kind of turns into a yellow shade. You can kind of hear, like, the buzzing of the bees through the doorway. And then music will fade. This happens a lot in Green Path. If you go from Green Path up to Kingdom's Edge, when you first jump up there, or not Kingdom's Edge, Howling Cliffs.
Didn't we say we were going to, like, not spoil a shitload of stuff at like the beginning of this episode?
That's not a spoiler. It's just an area, Tad.
Hey, here's all these areas you're going to go to.
These are optional areas that you can easily just not even do. So actually, Mister, I'm not spoiling shit. If you want me to spoil stuff, I'll go talk about the literal bottom half of the map, you piece of shit. I am selecting these very well and clearly, but then you waddle your big fat ass over here and you're like, well, Alex, you're wrong. So simmer down, son. When you transition to different areas that have a very different visual design, there are subtle things around, like, the entrance, like the shading will change. There'll be a couple of environmental things, like sitting around that doorway, and the music will fade out and start fading into the other area's theme.
This is most noticeable in an area that's kind of in the middle of the map. Every area kind of has its own hue that it has over the screen. The Forgotten Crossroads, which is the first area you go to, has a dark blue, like, color scheme and kind of filter over the screen. And then one of the areas it's got a pinkish filter, and as you're going in there, it has an effect that plays over all the audio in the game because it's supposed to be kind of, it's very similar to what's in that area. And as you get closer, that effect gets stronger and stronger because it's supposed to be like sound waves bouncing off the stuff in there. And it's like, whoa, hey, that's really cool. And like he was saying, you know, there's an area where there's a bunch of mushrooms. And when you're going, before you even get to the area, you'll start seeing more and more mushrooms as you're heading towards that area. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now I'm in this area. It's subtle transitions to areas and really fun stuff like that. That just makes the world feel really neat and make it feel like everything's connected and not just a bunch of hallways. Because that's what a Metroidvania is it's basically a bunch of hallways. But what you do is you make those hallways interesting. Like Hollow Knight did something really nice where they had an autism feature where they just had like breakable items that you could swing at as you walked down a hallway. Because if you're just sitting there, antsy like me, you can just start swinging, swap, 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 swap. You know?
I know what you're talking about. I wouldn't call it the autism feature. I would just call it like the OCD feature. But yeah, close enough, I guess.
It's like when I was playing that Try game, where it's a game just about drawing triangles on buildings.
What?
Didn't I ever show you that game where it's just you just draw triangles and that's the gameplay? You draw triangles and you like walk on them, and then you walk on the triangle to draw another triangle.
Are they like puzzles, or is this
I'm
game
pretty
just like
sure it's like the Rain Man official video game.
Are you sure? Like, is it a tech demo or is it like an actual like game?
It's like a puzzle game, but you just draw triangles everywhere.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to see this stupid ass game later. Like what? Okay. What the
Which
fuck
seems
were
to be
we
the
talking
issue,
about?
Alex. We were talking about how the areas transition over.
Yeah, yeah, and it's fucking great, and everything about it's fucking amazing. It's a really good thing. I could go into more specifics, but apparently I'm not allowed to for examples. So I'll just say,
Well, I mean,
it's really
Alex,
good.
here's the
Take my
thing.
word for it, winky face.
Here's the thing: I don't want because this is similar to Breath of the Wild, where I don't want to spoil someone else's gameplay enjoyment because this is a really really good game.
We can just put
Like-
spoiler warning in front of the thing. Woo.
Well, too bad, Alex. So I've played a good amount of Metroidvanias in my time. I've played Symphony of the Night, Guacamole, Ori and the Blind Forest, Super Metroid, La Mulana. But out of all of those, honestly, I think Hollow Knight is the best one. And if you've ever played
Ooh.
Ori, all right, so Ori and the Blind Forest is very similar to Hollow Knight. You both take the play. They're both in like a. I'm trying to think of a good thing to pick that makes them like you play a character that's very simplistic in their design. You know, Hollow Knight is just a helmet. He's got black eyes and he's got like a cloak and a little like stick body. He's just got a little pudgy stick body. And like in Ori and the Blind Forest, you're just like this little white dog thing, you know. And Ori and the Blind Forest was a Metroidvania where your basic attack was just pressing A or pressing X and it automatically attacked enemies. But like the fun of Ori and the Blind Forest was you got like you had a million different movement options. You know, you had your double, your triple jump. You could kick off enemies. You could kick attacks back. Stuff like that. And then Hollow Knight is much more combat focused, where most of your abilities have a use in combat or like positioning you. And even at the start of the game, one of the things the game did was it gives you a down attack when you're in the air. You jump and you swing downwards. And you can hit insta-kill spikes with those. And what you can do with that is that you can sneak, if you're smart enough, into just about any area of the game without getting the proper items to officially go there. And they did that on purpose. For one reason, because speedrunning is a huge part of Metroidvania games. People like going through and like sequence breaking as hard as they can. There's one of the areas in the game. It's in the first starting area. You go way, way, way down in the bottom right corner. And normally it's like an overhang over someone's house. And normally it's just like, okay, you can't get there. Because right after that is a super late game area. But what you could do is when you die, you leave a little ghost behind that you have to go and hit. But you could jump off of that ghost and also damage boost. So what you do is you die, go back down there, fucking get right where it was, bounce off your corpse's body, and get up there and go to that super late game area at like within the first 15 minutes of the game. And the game's like, yeah, sure, fuck it, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. And if you're smart enough, you can traverse that area. Like, one of the reasons that it allows you to do that is that there's like a fast travel option that you can just go to and then get the fuck out of there. Or if you get yourself into like one of the few areas in the game where it expects you to have a very common item that you're going to get by playing it normally. If you get stuck in one of those areas, you just press start, exit the game, you spawn back at a save point, and like it saves your progress. So if you do somehow get fucked, you can still go back there and try something else. You know, basically, just, the important thing is that if you're smart, you can go anywhere you want, and that's fucking awesome.
All right, so like, I like how you say not to say specific things when you talk about that specific skip and speedrunning, but whatever. Okay, so
Well, Alex, here's what I mean. Don't fucking Dark Souls these people. Where I played Dark Souls, now it's like, hey man, if you kill this guy here, you'll get this sword. And then you can take that key and you go down here to this area, and there's X, Y, and Z there, and then the boss there is like this, and this is how you beat the boss. Like, don't spoil the entire fucking game for them, before they get to the second area, Alex.
Areas. I said two optional areas that don't actually matter, but whatever.
Yeah, but I can't trust you, Alex.
Ooh.
Because then you're going to talk about, like, where after you fight the third boss in the game, you just get a fucking shotgun. Like, you can't let people know that. They have to find it themselves. That's what makes it fun. You can't just spoil all the cool parts of the game.
I'm not going to. So
But can
anyway,
I trust you?
I completely agree with Tad and how they traverse the world and stuff. In fact, a lot of developers also really, really like speedrunning, like you mentioned, so much so that there was, in this one specific spot, like a door that you had to go through. But to open it, you had to do this, like, to get all this fucking, like, shit. So for the help speedrunners, in an update, the developers just straight up removed it. So it's gone. So you can just get there without having to fucking get all that bullshit anymore.
Now, where the hell is that door? Because I played after they had the first DLC pack.
Well, I can talk about this considering it's been removed from the game, so hey, it ain't a spoiler now. But in that one area, the one that's spooky and shit, there was a door that you had to pay to open, a gate, like there was in that one other area, and you need to be able to see it, but it's dark and spooky there, so you need to save up and buy an item to see in the dark to just use it. But because I got rid of that door, you don't, technically speaking, you don't need to be able to see if you already know the area ahead of time like a speedrunner would. So they just don't get the fucking light and they just go right through it. Because now they don't need to see to activate the door.
Yeah, I saw one of my friends. He just did so. Like he said, there's an area where you have to buy an item to be able to see clearly. And my friend Tim, went to a super late game area super early by cheating through, like I said earlier, where you just damage boost off enemies to get to areas you're not supposed to go to yet, quote unquote, not supposed to go to. And so he got to this area that I didn't get to until I was like 70% of the way through the game. I'm like, oh man, how'd you get there? You only have like so much, you don't even have enough money to buy the thing. He's like, yeah, I just got here without it. He's like, I just trialed and errored my way through. And he got to the boss and got like a super late game thing really early. And like a thing happened with me and Alex here. So there was a boss he went to within like the first 3 hours of the game. And he was a really cool boss. And I didn't get to him until I was like 27 hours into the game. And Alex was like, he was watching me as I was playing, and he was like trying to get me, he was like talking about this area, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He's like, yeah, you know the thing, like right after that main area that you went to, that you have to go down there to go through to the next area? I'm like, I went around the complete opposite of the side of the map and found a secret area there.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about
like,
now.
The fact that like, if I tried to say like, oh yeah, that fourth boss, it could be one of like 18 bosses. Like, you can go about the game in pretty much any way you want. There's only, there's, I think 3 areas in the game that are hard blocked. And even then, they might not be. It might just be that I don't know the secret tactic to get past them.
The secret corpse hopping tech and shit. Because I think corpse hopping would be like one of the best if the shade, because that's what your little ghost is called, spawned like, if it spawned exactly where you died and not in like a fixed position, that thing would be game breaking.
I kept expecting like there to be a speed running enabling item you could get that lets it so like you can just bounce off the ghost's head forever or something.
Oh, like you don't technically kill it.
Yeah, like I kept expecting that to be a thing, but it never was. But so this game had the Kickstarter in, oh god, was it 2012 or 2014? I want to say it was 2014.
Yeah, it's 2014 because the game took 3 years to make.
Yeah, and it was originally going to come out pretty soon because, like I said, they had a small. They're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be a small area. Boom, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. There we go. And I don't know why they set these rewards so low, but some of the Kickstarter rewards was like $120. You can work with us to design a character in the game. Also, here's like 6 copies of the game. And then for $200, you could, 1, create a character that's like in the game, 2, design a fucking area of the game, and then 3, get like 8 copies of the game. Like, and I think that's why this game took like an extra year or 2 to come out, because there are a lot of areas. I kept, like, once I was about 20 hours into the game, I'm like, okay, I'm getting near the end of the game, and I'll find an area, like, oh, okay, I took this, I took this small little shortcut area. Oh, cool, this place I haven't seen before. 3 hours later. Okay, that was a nice little area. I'm sure I'm near the game now. Oh, cool, look over here. 4 hours later. I kept finding super huge areas that I never even explored before.
See, that's kind of what happened to me when I was playing. I got to this one area where, in order to get further, you needed the double jump, and I couldn't get away. I couldn't, hop off shit enough. I wasn't pro enough to get up there. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just have to go get that double jump and fucking do this area then. So I go. My buddy gives me a hint, finger quotes, of where the double jump is. So I go down to this area that I backtracked through like 100 times already, which was a big issue before the update. And I go down there. I fight the boss. It was a cool fight. Get the fucking double jump. And as soon as I got the double jump, 6 hours later, I finally go back to the area to beat it. Because once you have the double jump, the entire game is your oyster. Literally everything that you couldn't get to before, you could it's yours. Every secret is now yours. So I just kept getting really distracted because I kept saying, hey, that ledge, I can get up there now. And it just took forever to actually get back to the old area.
Because one of the most important thing you have to do in a Metroidvania is you have to make traversing the game fun. And Hollow Knight made that really fun, I think primarily through the down air attack, where you can bounce off of enemies and objects in the environment. You can bounce off the air, dash, double jump, bounce, whoosh whoosh. You can fly around in the air doing all this crazy cool shit. And that makes it really fun to go back through. Like, I didn't mind going through the crossroads 8 fucking times. Because every time I went through, I was doing crazy bullshit. I was like, wow, look at me go. Woo! I was dashing through enemies. I was doing all sorts of fun, crazy shit. And it was awesome. So, back to the Kickstarter. One of the rewards was for $200, you got to create a character that would be in the game. And, like, I really, really wish I knew about this because I had an amazing idea for a character. And they probably would have made me change it because I don't think it would have fit with the game's aesthetic and themes. But I was thinking about this because it only took me like I think 15 seconds to come up with this character idea.
A son of a good character.
It's really cool. So what my idea for if I did the time warp again, jumped back to 2014. First of all, slapped myself for not giving up on Homestuck, and then I went on Kickstarter and saw this game. I would have pledged $200 to get this character in there. It would have been a circus duo. It would have been a roly-poly and a flea with a hat and a whip. And he would have been like, the roly-poly would have been rolled up into a ball with like red and white stripes, and they just had the like flea rolling on top of it with like a whip, like cracking it, making the thing jump and shit. It would have been awesome.
See, I had an idea. Again, I wish I knew about this Kickstarter. I have banked pretty poorly on these Kickstarters so far, because every time these games come out and they're good, I'm like, damn, wish I backed this one. But I wish I bet this game with 200, and my character would have been a fucking, I think would fit the art style a little more with the thing. But it would be, I would pay the extra to make it like a fightable character, because there are some Kickstarter characters that are just like these little NPCs that you can kind of talk to later, and like basically this big backer area. But there are some Kickstarter characters, I don't know why these ones are so special, that are actually like NPCs wandering around the place. Because they did the Dark Souls like wandering NPC bullshit in their little quest lines. And a lot of them were actually backers too. But if I could back a boss, I would. It would be like a water strider bug, but he would be like a fucking like a kung fu kind of like sensei guy. He'd have like the big brimmed hat, and you would fight him in like this shallow water that you could still walk through, and he would be like gliding across the water trying to hit you with like a fucking pole staff and shit. He would do like sick tricks off the water.
Yeah, like I could see him like because all the I think no the bugs in this game have the proper amount of arms and legs. I think.
No, they usually just have 2 arms and 2 legs for the most part.
Some of the bosses I think had the normal like 6 legs or 4 legs or whatever.
But off the top of my head, the Mantis Lords only had like the 2 and the 2. But then some like the actual more bug like looking characters, like say, she's not important, Willow, off in that one area. She's just a straight up giraffe beetle, like like literally just looks like a bug. But then you'll have characters like Quirrell, who just looks like a guy, like he has the normal like little stick arms and legs, and then just like a beetle body, you know?
Yeah, because because simplified bugs end up looking really cute. Like they just got big old eyes, they got simple shells, and these little stick arms. And they look really good.
That's actually one of the things that's really good for this game is its art style. If I could just cut in real quick,
Yeah, that's actually what I was about to talk about.
Fucking one of the best things about this game is its art style, because not only does it look fucking fantastic and just beautiful, but
one of the areas I got to, one of the early ones, the green path, the forest area,
yeah.
I got there and like I entered the area and then I didn't move for about 14 seconds because I thought I was in a cutscene because it looked too good to be the normal area. So I'm like, okay, this is the little animated intro to the area. Wow, they're really holding it here. Oh shit, no, the game looks like this.
Okay, so fuck. I was just talking about. So, for the fact that it just looks beautiful. One of the things that some reviewer I once watched was talking about the game, and I completely agree with him, is that despite the overall depressing feel of the world, it never grates on you, it never weighs you down, because no matter what, you're always looking at how cute the characters look. Like, look at the little knight himself. Look at how cute that little piece of shit looks. And another thing that helps with this little like cuteness feel is the minimalistic style of voice acting, which I think, by the way, every game should do, because I'm getting a little sick of voice acting in my video games. Starting to wear
okay,
their
I don't
welcome.
know if every game should do it. The voice acting in this game, you talk to an enemy, and then they had people record for the Kickstarter characters. They got to record their own lines, and they gave them a bunch of nonsense words. They're like umte baka tonka, monta monta,
Hatamas Geo.
Optimus Geo. Shit like that. Bampanada. It just shit like just it was made up words to make the feel of you are in this game world. This is their normal speech. It sounds foreign to you because you're not from there. And it gives off that really good little alienating feeling.
The designers of the game were talking about it. They tried to design it to sound kind of like French, so it would kind of like that with the art style would make it look like some kind of like French cartoon. And how the French are like really, really good with their animation and shit. So like that was the idea, was to kind of make it look and sound like that.
But yeah, every area in the game is very unique in how it looks. And I will disagree a little bit with what you said that other guy said before about the game not kind of pushing down on you. Because like I was feeling like when I got to when I was in the Forgotten Crossroads at the start of the game, like I was in there and it felt like this empty like solitary cavern despite all these dudes running around that were like trying to kill me for whatever reason. It felt like super empty, and that felt really cool. I like that a lot. And then that kind of peels away. It does come back at another area. There was one area of the game, and it's my favorite area, that, no joke, it looked so good when I got in there, I thought I was going to cry. And I think you know what area it was. It's the one that I always gush about.
Is it the one that I always gush about? Because we could just say it, just to let everyone know what our favorite area is.
So the area I went into, and I almost cried because it was so beautiful, was called City of Tears. Because how you enter it is you go down, it's like, the music's very, very quiet, all you hear is raindrops. And you go down these big towers, and you get down to the bottom, like the music gets louder and louder, paired with the music, or like paired with the raindrops. Like you go outside, and now instead of hearing it pitter-pattering on glass, you hear it pitter-pattering outside, and then like the like singing voice kicks in, and it like zooms out, and you see this huge, empty, like isolated, rainy tower, or this like rainy, like capital, like city. and it's fucking awesome.
It's easily the best area, and it's kind of like everyone's favorite for pretty much the exact same reasons you like it. But it's fucking beautiful. It's my favorite area, and I was actually hyping it up to him. I wasn't saying what I just said like this is my favorite area. And when you get there, if it's not your favorite area too, our friendship is over.
Were you about to say favorite anime?
No, I said area. I just accidentally dropped my little note card, and I was like, ah, shit. So it made me stutter.
But yeah, that place is fucking slick.
Now, I want to be a little spoilery here, because I wanted to say the favorite bosses. So, spoiler warning, half an hour in.
Yeah, we're going to kick into spoilers here, because there's also something I want to say about the deepest lore behind the game. Because it's an indie game, it's got to have the deepest lore aspect.
I would actually compare it... I would say it's the Dark Souls of Metroidvanias, where I fucking hate comparing anything to Dark Souls, but I feel like this one's an actually good comparison with how its world feels, how the enemies are basically like hollows for the most part, and how NPCs interact with you, and how most of the lore comes from, instead of items, they come from random little like lore tidbits that characters spout, or these weird tablets you find.
Yeah, because once you get the Dream Nail, the game's deepest lore aspect really opens up. Because now when you get to an enemy, you charge up, go boom, ping, and you hit someone, you get to hear their inner thoughts. And so, throughout the game, you see these bug shells, and they've got like glowing orange eyes, and when you kill them, they explode. It's like this orange goop. And every enemy that's infected with this weird stuff keeps talking about a bright light. Like, bright light, holy radiant light. And they keep jibber-jabbering all about that. And like you said with the Dark Souls NPCs, we had a completely different experience with one of these NPC characters in the game. It was in the forested area, and I went there early. I started exploring. It was like Alex followed that character that showed up, the Hornet character, and I was like, oh cool, nah, fuck off, I don't care about you. And I immediately went in the opposite direction for like 16 hours, and I found this dude, and he was just like a guy covered in moss. He was like a moth prophet. Mm-hmm. And he's just like, oh, nah, niece, no. He just kept doing like those noises. And he was just going on and on and on about the super bright radiant light because he was super infected. And so Alex came by way, way later and found that dude just dead. So I saw him before the infection took over. And then afterwards when he was dead. But because of the way that Alex went through the game, he only saw him afterwards.
Mm-hmm. But, again, we could be a little spoilery with a little more specific areas and the characters here.
Oh, yeah, we put that spoiler warning in there, so we can go ham now.
Okay, so one of the things I wanted to bring up back with City of Tears, when you're walking down there, there's one of the... I mentioned him earlier, because he's not really a spoiler, because he's a big... You meet him right at the start of the game, like the first 5 minutes. He's a big part of like your adventure. Is the NPC named Quirrell, who's this other adventurer guy who has like a big mask on his head, like a hat, and he has a little like rapier-looking nail. And he's also on his own little quest. He doesn't really know why. He's kind of like amnesic about it, but he's being kind of drawn towards something, which again gives me this Dark Souls vibe. And while you're going through down to the entrance of City of Tears and how he's mentioning the build-up, if you're following around Quirrell, he'll be on the entrance of City of Tears, just kind of sitting on the bench looking out at the rain, and you can talk to him and sit right next to him and just kind of listen to the music, and it's like really, really good. It really helps with the introduction.
You could just chill.
Funny enough, though, you mentioned missing NPCs, and I missed this because the area right before City of Tears is called Mantis Village, which is my second favorite area in the game, and I'll get into that in a second. But in Mantis Village, outside of it, is Quirrell. If you try to fight the Mantis Lords early on, which is the boss of that area, easily my favorite boss in the game, if you die to them, Quirrell can actually be outside of the village, and he give you a tip. He says, if you're having trouble, you should try upgrading your nail, maybe. There's a nailsmith not too far from here. And I missed that, though, because I didn't fight the Mantis Lords until later. Because even though I hit the switch, which makes the entire village shake and open up a giant pit, I, for some reason, was retarded and didn't even notice, so I just left the area after getting the power-up and went to the City of Tears. So I came back to Mantis Village for whatever reason, and just fell down the pit. I'm like, whoa, when did this get here? And then I went down and fought the Mantis Lords. And what makes me really... Again, I'm almost done. What really makes me like the Mantis Lords as a fight is not only do they look really cool, and the entire village is cool looking, and I like mantises and shit, and when you fight them, and it's this cool music and everything, when you beat them, you don't kill them. They like bow to you, and now all of the mantises in the village and outside of it are friendly to you. They bow to you when you walk by. In fact, they actually open up their little treasury to you, which gives you a cool upgrade and a little bench to sit on. You can hang out in the village now. Because the mantises aren't infected, which is another part of the really, really good world design, is when you hit an infected enemy, the little like orange goop bleeds out of them. But when you hit an enemy that's not infected, it's just like white. It's just the soul energy. It's super
that's
cool.
That's where the magic system comes from. It comes from the soul. And that's a whole deepest lore fucking segment in itself, what they do with Soul. Because like I said, there's a whole bunch of deepest lore bullshit that I had no idea figured out on my own, unless I sat there, fucking Matt padded that shit, fucking Matthew Matthias my way through it.
Well, it's not some Vadividia-esque bullshit. It's more like Bloodborne, where it's a little more direct with you, where it says this is what happened and this is who did it. You just kind of think of all of the motivation. You kind of think of the majority of the motivation yourself and kind of fit in some backstory of your own. You have to theorize about that. But the actual full-on everything is very straightforward. With, like, Dark Souls 1, especially, the world... Okay, I explained it like this with Miyazaki's writing, which was, it gives you point A and then point C, and you have to figure out point B in the middle on your own. Where Bloodborne, it gives you... like A, B, and C, but there's also in between an A.5 and B.5 that you can find out on your own, which is kind of like the normal way it should be. You know what I mean? Where it is directed towards you. It's just like some little background stuff. Like with Hollow Knight, it gives you B and C, and you have to kind of figure out A for yourself.
Yeah. There's another thing that I really, really liked about this game. There's 149 unique enemies. When I say unique, there's maybe 4 enemies that are just a recolor of another one. And even then, those ones still have new moves. Like, there's these little slugs, these little roly-polies that roll up and chase at you. Okay? And then there's a recolor of them that do that, but they're also faster and they have an extra attack. So, and even then, like, their design is way different. It's not just like, okay, these ones are red now.
And funny enough, actually, there's a reason behind those ones just being red now, is
exactly.
that you fight them in, again, spoilers, in the arena, and they're specifically red because they're wearing armor, because the guys who run the arena gave them armor to make them more interesting to fight.
I really liked the arena. I really enjoyed that area.
The Arena of Fools was fucking great, or Trial of Fools, whatever it was called. Coliseum of Fools, that's it.
Yep, it's just an area. I don't know if there's a bunch of cheering bugs in the background. And what's really great is that when you die, they laugh. When you die, like you go, pow, and you explode. And then you hear all the bugs in the background laughing at you because you're a fool. That area was super fun. And I'm really glad it exists because, TBH, this game was kind of easy. This game wasn't that hard. There was no boss in the game that, like, Okay, so I say it was easy, but it's a good form of easy because I can beat the bosses and go through. And it takes a few tries, and then you go on your merry way. But then if you're big dick on campus, you go back and you refight them, and now they're much harder, which is like that's a really good way of going about it. Having your game be accessible enough and easy for people can play through it and have some fun with that boss. And then if they're actually good at video games, they go back and they fight Soul Tyrant. They go back and it's like, oh shit, here we go, motherfucker, let's do this. And then you fight like a really hard version of the boss, and it's a lot of fun. It's cool. I'm glad they implemented that.
There's only a few of those, they're called dream bosses. You fight these 3 bosses and they added 2 in the update. And I kind of agree with Tad, where it's really nice to be accessible enough that almost anyone can kind of get into it, while having extra like tricks and shit to make it a little more challenging for you. But when it comes to rematching a boss for a harder version, what's good about that kind of difficulty is that it's a difficulty that you yourself choose. It's not forced upon you and thrown in your face. It's like, okay, I beat False Knight. He was like the first or second boss, whatever. You beat him. But then later you can go rematch him in his dream, and he's super aggro and just has all these bombs flying, like more so than before. And he's hard as fuck. But
yeah, and he has new attacks.
Yeah, but it's your choice to fight that. It's not like you're near the end of the game and he just pops down with his rematch form and now you're stuck on him, You choose to fight this. It's a rematch for a reason.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't go the route of like giving you like like an item that you use, and then someone comes by and like helps you co-op the boss. And that makes, because there's, and remember, this is like big spoilers area. There's 2 times in the game where if you've been following an NPC, they come up and they help you, and it's fucking awesome. So one of the big 3 bosses that you fight in the game, you go there and like you can't hit it. Like you're going over there, you're trying to hit it, and it's a big old jellyfish. It's like fuck, shit, can't hit him, shit, god damn it. And then Quirrell hops up, he's like, nothing personnel. He dashes through and he cuts it open, and then you go in there and you get the hits on it. It's fucking awesome.
He jumps down, he's like, he saw, and then runs up and just smacks it for you, and then you can put all the damage on it yourself. But fun fact, you actually bring that up. So Quirrell actually always does that, even if you're not following his quest line, because remember, he's on his own quest, which actually, in my opinion, makes it better, because his adventure is separate to yours, where you're on this quest to do your thing. He's on his quest to be, because again, he doesn't remember, he's being drawn to this area. He's being drawn to that like mansion that you fight the jellyfish in, because his master is in there calling to him. That's why he has the second mask on. Again, we wrote a spoiler warning earlier, but so he's going to be there no matter what. However, Cloth, another backer character who got a pretty big role in the game, she has an optional quest line. You can find her in a couple spaces. She's on her own little adventure. And then if you follow her quest, in Queen's Garden, the boss of that area, named the Traitor Lord, who's an evil Mantis Lord, he was like the boy one who said, fuck you, the infection's awesome. He left and took himself and all the other Mantises who sided with him over to willingly get infected and become stronger. So she pops in and helps you fight him, but that also kills her. She dies as part of the thing. So, like, if you don't do her quest, she lives. But you get the idea. If you do her quest, she helps you with the boss, and she makes it like a 10-second fight because she does so much damage.
Yeah, because it was really awesome because I was showing up there, I was like, oh shit, here we go. 3 mantises, boys, let's do this shit. And I heard like a rumble. I'm like, oh shit, there's going to be a giant one. And she pops there's like, oi! It just takes the giant fucking Havel's Dragon Tooth and slam! And just fucks him up. It was awesome.
But well, what? You go first.
And then this game also does something that every single video game should do all the time forever, which is have the rival character, have the fucking Groose of your game. Because it never gets old. That. In this game, it's Zoet. And he looks like you. And, okay, so does he have a black body as well?
Yes, he does.
Okay. So let's get to the deepest lore behind Zoet.
You really want to know now, don't you? Because I know the answer.
Because, okay. So, what Zoet is he's got his own... He looks like you. He looks just like you. His cloak is a little bit different, and his helmet is cracked. But he's like... you find out as you go through, he's got like a nail, which is the swords in these games. He calls it, like, Life Ender. And he goes through, he's like, get the fuck out of my way. I'm super cool. And then, just in Groose style, he's really, he thinks he's real tough. He thinks he's real hot shit. And then, like, you end up saving him. And one of the rarest achievements in the game is to not save Zoet. There's a reason why that's only like a 1.3%, because you would never not save Zoet, because he's awesome. But Alex, is he a Hollow Knight like the main character?
Is he a vessel? So they were asked that on the Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and I was reading through that, and they're like, okay, just tell us, Team Cherry, which is the guys who made this game, is Zoet a vessel like you? And they said he could be, possibly. He does look awfully familiar, doesn't he? And that's it. So fuck you too.
Oh, motherfucker! I bet I know what one of the DLC packs is gonna be.
One of the Kickstarter what was I looking for? The tier rewards, the goals or whatever, stretch goal, that's it. One of the stretch goals was to get like 60,000, and they would actually make a Zoet campaign, because you could see like new playable character, and the silhouette is obviously Zoet. So they're possibly hinting that they might still make it, since they made so much money off of actual Steam sales now.
They better.
It's getting popular.
Anytime we're the Groose character, you get to play as them is fucking sweet.
I bet it's going to be like his thing only does 1 damage. You have to get through the entire game with dealing as little damage as possible. Or
I'd
wait,
be
no,
okay with that.
better. Know what they could do? They could do like a Warrior Land 2, because now when you hit him in the arena, he bounces around. Where in Warrior Land 2, you were invincible, but every time you get hit, you get like knocked back like 5 feet. You go like super far, and part of like fighting enemies is they try to knock you off cliffs, or like in a boss fight. So you can't die. What they do is they knock you out of the arena, and you have to walk back pretty much. So you have to avoid taking damage, otherwise go through like half the level again. That was part of the
Or
design of that
like,
game.
I would like to see Zoet's idea of what he was going through. Where like in Zoet's mind, like you're going through, and he's like a giant, like super beefy dude, like a giant sword. You're like going through fighting a fuckload of spiders and stuff.
You like, it's just like him sleeping, and you go through his dream, which is just him on his adventure. And like he meets like the knight, who's just like this little scrawny weakling, like he's just the helmet. He's like, "Huh, who needs this guy?" And just like kicks him away, and then you play as Zoet.
I'd be okay with that.
But anyway. So one of the biggest lore things I mentioned the word vessel is we're getting into this as part of the deepest look. I want to talk about the story real fast. I actually really enjoyed it. So in the world of Hollow Knight, it's called Hollow Nest. It's like the little kingdom you're in. Basically, it got fucked and got infected after this one guy came in called the Pale King. He's like, all right, fuck whatever you guys were previously doing. We're doing this now. And the previous thing didn't like that and started to infect everything. So way in the future, you come in and you're here to just fix all that shit, kinda. But you don't really know why you're doing that until you get these two lore items and then you combine them together. And when you do that, you go down into like this deep underground place called the Abyss, and you find a shitload of little helmets, little masks, just like yours. And you can actually see a couple of these other like vessels like you earlier on in the game. Like when you first find Hornet, she like just stabbed a little vessel and then points her nail at you or whatever, her little hairpin or whatever. What is that thing?
It's a needle and thread.
Needle. Duh. Yeah, I was trying to think of the fucking word. She points her little needle towards you, and then spouts a bunch of lore shit at you, and then you fight. So, also when you fight Nosk, there's a bunch of like corpses like tied up in spiderwebs of little vessels, just like you. But the whole deal is the king wanted to stop this by creating a Hollow Knight out of the abyss, out of this little like black goop, pretty much. He was trying to mold it into a perfect warrior that could not feel, could not think. It was basically just like a little living robot to fight off the infection. So every single one of those little ones that he dumped down there, and their shades are still like restless and like flailing around, are failed ones until he got the Hollow Knight, which is where the name of the game comes from, the actual legit real one that did feel nothing. But when you're like doing like this big flashback sequence and you're like trying to climb out of the abyss yourself, you'd like grab onto the ledge, and the Hollow Knight that's like perfect, he walks away, stops, looks back at you for a second, and then goes back to walking away. And that's actually to show you that he's not perfect, because he looked back and he felt sorry for you, which means he could feel, and that's why he lost. So the final boss finger quotes of the game is the Hollow Knight, except he's not little like you in the past. He's fully grown, and he's huge, and he has this, as someone described it, an Artorias kind of feel, where he's like this wounded-ass guy with one arm fighting you with this really sorrowful music playing.
And he did these things. So when you're fighting him, and I have my own game theory about why. So you fight him, he's like wrapped up, he's looking at you, and he's like knocked up in chains. Because what his job was to contain all of the infection. Shit didn't work. Kang really fucked that one up. So he's in there. You slowly break each one of his chains, and then he drops down, and like gets up, he yells, and like there's an infection coming off of him, and then you fight him, and like he's really easy. And he does one thing in particular. So at a certain point, he'll like scream and knock you away, and then start stabbing himself and dealing damage. And so what you're supposed to do is, after certain points, Hornet comes in and breaks his mask. And then if you did all the deepest lore stuff and you understand what you're supposed to do, you dream nail him and you fight the super secret final boss. And I'm not sure, like, I think, so the reason why he was like stabbing himself like that, I think he was either like, I want to like, okay, because the normal ending is she goes in there and breaks his mask, and then you beat the fuck out of him. and
Well,
then
actually, the
like
normal
boom.
ending is again, I have to interrupt. Is you just beat him. Hornet
Yeah.
only shows up if you've been following her quest line to get it up to that point, and the only way to do that is to get to the 100% thing. It's basically there's three endings. There's the first ending, then there's the first ending parentheses with Hornet in the cutscene, and then there's the actual other ending, which is like the
Oh,
true
so
ending.
that's what that Chivo is. Because I got the one sealed siblings where it's
That's
you and
because
Hornet in there.
that's okay. So that cutscene is basically the exact same. So the difference is that you can see Hornet in the background in Sealed Siblings, and also the mask that forms on the door is Hornet's mask. But like for the most part, that ending is like an almost shot-for-shot remake of the normal like just the normal ending where you beat the Hollow Knight.
Yeah, but that
the
ending
idea
is
of
you take his place, and I guess he was like, I don't know if he was sentient still, and he was just like, I'm gonna kill myself as fast as possible. Like he gets like moments of clarity. He was like, oh, I'm gonna kill myself real fucking quick, so I could stop doing this and pass it on to this little shithead.
Well, here's what I think he's doing is that because they're sort of like robots where they don't really think and feel, they can just kind of do it. I figured it's more like a programming thing where he can see like because if you notice he has like infectious like boils on his torso when he's stabbing himself. I think of it more like he sees it and is just trying to stab at the infection because he's supposed to fight the infection. So he's literally doing that by trying to stab it himself because he has it inside of his body. That's how I looked at it.
That's
Because
a solid. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it could honestly go either way, depending on how like smart or knowledgeable the Hollow Knight is. I mean, because both are pretty
how
valid.
smart
I
and
think.
knowledgeable he is at that point.
Yeah, because
when
he's
got all that
he's
shit
been
in
wrapped
him.
up in there for a fucking while.
He's been there for hundreds of years. It's been 200 years, I think.
So I've got a question about Hollow Nest as a whole.
Sure.
So all the way to the west, there's a quote unquote endless desert. And all the way to the right, there's just a bunch of mountains. So what I'm wondering is Hollow Nest just a mountain in the middle of the desert that's been carved out by like these giant worms? Like, is it surrounded by the desert, or is it only one side that has this big old desert on it? Because there are like moths and like other beetles and like these other dudes that exist. So there are, there's other bug kingdoms outside of Hollow Nest.
In fact, some of the little like ghost NPCs you talk to mention other kingdoms specifically. Like there's this one warrior that has like a bunch of like axes on his back. He's like, "Oh yes, I come from the far off kingdom of the east," and blah blah blah. So like there are other places. The thing I don't know is I don't know if they're supposed to be like actually tiny little bugs like on Earth, or if this is like it is like a bug world and they're normal sized. That's the only thing I don't know.
I mean, what's normal size for a bug?
I mean, fair. You know what I mean, asshole.
I mean, there's literally no point of reference to like compare it to size, because everything in that game could be 7,000 feet tall, or it could be like 15 feet tall. We have no actual point of reference.
I like how 15 feet tall is short to you. Like, ooh, okay.
I mean, compared to several thousand feet tall.
I know, but like when you're thinking of bugs, you can only think of 10,000 feet tall or 15 feet tall. Like Abigail from Street Fighter V walks up, and no, you are Abigail. You just look at someone who's 7 feet, you're like, manlet, and you just run away.
Manlets. When will they learn?
Anyway. I kind of like that though because it kind of makes you wonder just how crazy the rest of the world is. Like how I just said, I wonder like are they like little bugs on like regular Earth, or it's just like their own little like bug world? I don't know, but it makes me think and it makes it a little more interesting that way because I don't
you get
know.
you get that Binding of Isaac style deepest lore. This stuff that really makes you go, So there's some cool stuff. There's a lot of deepest lore stuff, and I want to talk about my favorite boss fights. And so there's two fights. Well, I guess three, but Alex already mentioned the Mantis Lords. So there's two fights that I would say were my favorite and the most fun ones in this game. The number one. Well, I'll start with the number two. There was an area in City of Tears. I think it's the only boss fight in City of Tears. There's one of them. There's Soul Tyrant way up in the corner. But besides him, there's an area. It's right before like you get like one of the secret, like one of the masks to open up the final boss area, and you go up there and there's like a bunch of there's like a bunch of knights. There's like a bunch of shells. You go in there and there's a purple haze. And then it takes a bunch of like haze particles, fills up one of their corpses, and then you fight it. And then another one revives. And then another one revives. And then there's two of them going at you at once. It's like, oh fuck, here we go. You got to manage your screen. You got to keep one on the left side, one on the right. You got to keep an eye on them. You got to like maneuver. You got to position yourself to be able to dodge them and whatever attack they do. And then it just keeps on going. It does the Four Kings bullshit where it's like they just keep coming. That was really fun. I really liked that fight. And I don't know if you agree. I don't know, because you said that your favorite was Mantis Lords, right?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite one, for sure, was the super secret final boss, which was Radiance. So Radiance, and we'll get into why. Like, I really liked the Radiance fight. I did not like the story lore behind it because I thought it was really dumb and a cop out. So the boss fight itself is like, it looks like the White King as well, which is probably intentional because it's got the crown and it's got like, because throughout the game you'll see silhouettes of the White King. Like you'll see like in a sewer grate, it'll have a circle with like a shell, and then it's got like a crown on it and it's got like two wings. And I don't know if that's just left over from way in the past before the White King took over, or if he took up the same kind of mantle so they wouldn't have to redo all the signs and shit. That's my theory. That's my game theory on it.
Well,
but
actually, again, I interrupted with some world building things. Remember the very, very top of Crystal Peak, the crown of the kingdom?
Yes.
You know where you picked up the pale ore? You can't really notice this because the camera's zoomed in, but if you look at like the big official map that came out with the game, you notice that thing on top of the crown is a big statue of the Radiance where you pick up the ore.
Ah. Because they just didn't get rid of it.
Yeah, because it's all the way up there. But like the previous world, we're going to talk about you go first. Talk about the boss fight first. But like there is a world building reason, and I'll get right into that once you're done.
So the boss fight itself, there like the character shows up like you so you're fighting the Hollow Knight. Hornet goes in there and breaks the mask, and you start seeing the dream stuff come out. It's like psh, it's like spraying out. So you hit it with a dream nail. I didn't know that's what you're supposed to do because I tried it and it didn't work. I think maybe I missed or I did it too early or something. I don't know what was going on. But then I did it again, like I did the boss fight again and got it that time. But you go in there, you climb some things, and this is one of only two areas where you get to do this. It has you normally press up to talk or listen or whatever. It says challenge. You look towards the sun, you draw the nail, and then the sun coalesces into the giant like moth person, the Radiance. And when you're fighting them, like you have to use all of your abilities in the game because it's the 100% secret final boss. You have to use, your dash invincibility. You have to be able to You have to be able to double jump. I don't think it's possible to win this fight without a double jump.
I mean, you have to be able to use the invincibility dash because of the laser beam attack. Yeah, you have to have all the powers and the upgrades because you wouldn't be able to get this far without them.
Yep. So this boss incorporates a lot of other bosses' moves, only 2 times faster. So one of the things it does is it sends a bunch of really neat-looking rapiers from the left of the screen to the right, from the right of the screen left. On the ground, it will cover half of the area in spikes. And that doesn't mean that you have to leave that area. It just means you better be managing those down attacks because you can bounce on those spikes to try and get some cheeky hits on the boss. But like, you better be real goddamn good with it. And then it's got stuff. It's got like this. It has the soul manipulation where it puts out a big ball of light that flies really fucking fast at you. And so, like, as you're hitting it, it slowly does each of its moves. And this is a good game design idea here, too. It slowly shows off one move at a time. It's like, okay, here's my spike move. Now a laser comes across it. Now I'm doing swords. Doing swords again. Now I have spikes and these fireballs that chase after you that you have to make hit the ground. Otherwise, they will circle around you and you will die because they will constantly hit you. All of its attacks deal 2 hearts of damage, by the way.
You have a maximum of like 9 or 10 health.
Yep. And so, you fight the boss, and then it gets to the real good shit. So you beat the boss, and like as you deal more damage to it, you start seeing the void abyss shit start bubbling up at the bottom of the screen. And then once it gets to like half health, like it starts shaking and it like flies up. And then the void shit starts coming up from the bottom, and you got to start climbing to avoid it and go up to the next area. Now there's a bunch of scattered platforms. The boss keeps getting up to his old bullshit, and then like you climb up higher and higher and higher, and it starts shooting laser beams as you're like platforming, trying to avoid the abyss at the bottom of the screen, like timing your jumps really well to avoid the laser beams, and it's super super cool. And then like you go up there, you beat the fuck out of it, and it does the God of War thing, where you beat the boss and then press X to punch Zeus until you feel like you're done punching Zeus. And that was cool. But then the lore reason, Alex, explain the lore reason for the boss, because it was fucking dumb.
Okay. So, I mentioned this earlier briefly. So the Radiance ruled over everything, because the Radiance was basically God, and it hive-minded all the insects, the earliest insects being the moth tribe, because, you know, moths like light, and then the Radiance is basically the sun. So the Radiance is over there, bouncing bugs around, they were hive-minded and whatever, but then a giant worm, which are like these other deities pretty much, molted, and became smaller and became the White King. He kicks down the door and says, "All right, everyone, fuck the Radiance, fuck you and fuck your marker. We're gonna build a new kingdom. Fuck that old one." And they build a new kingdom. The Radiance is like, "Well, fuck you too," and then use the dream like scape, the dream world, to like because that's where it is. That's where it's located. To go into the dreams of all the bugs and be like, "Hey guys, remember me? Come on, you still like me, right?" And was trying to control them. It did this so much that it actually started to physically manifest as the infection, and it got a little crazy, which is why all the infected things talk about a blazing blue, blazing bright light. There we go, got it, nailed it. So the king's like, "Fuck, this is really bad. Everything's getting all infected and zombie-like. I need to make something that can stop this." While doing this, he discovers the void, and he's like, "Perfect, this is it. I'm gonna I'm gonna create molds to create things." One of his tests was the Collector, a hidden boss who is made entirely out of void and doesn't have a mask or anything, and he's all like loony, where he's trying to preserve life by putting them in the jars. But he was a test for that, and then he's like, "Okay, let's keep doing this." He made more like little robot-y molds, and then he started making the Hollow Knights, the vessels, to try to find the one that would be perfect to be able to contain the Radiance within and contain all the infection, which is specifically why the Radiance is like actually inside of the Hollow Knight, because it's like actually in its head and in its dreams, which is why you have to go into the dream and destroy the Radiance in like the weird dreamscape place. But basically the Radiance, which is a she apparently, despite looking like a fucking king with its big fluffy like mane that looks like a beard, is really pissy that the king came over and took over her shit and wants to fucking rule again. But since you and the rest of the vessels are made out of the abyss, which is basically, you know, dark, you and the sun don't get along very well. Yep. So during your like whole quest to get the 100% true end to activate this boss, you go down and get the Void Heart, which allows you to basically you to get this item that makes you the new king of the kingdom. So not only are you the king, but you go down and you basically become the Lord of the Abyss. So much so that all the little enemies in the abyss are now friendly to you, or just straight up like these little puzzle things that used to smack at you out of the water don't even smack at you anymore. In fact, you could swim in the abyss water after you get the heart. Like, you are the lord of this place now. It's yours. And this game does that a lot, which I really like, where it has the Mantis Lords be friendly to you. You can get item to make the bees that I mentioned in the hive friendly to you, and you can also get this to make the void friendly to you. But the difference is that you're the lord now. You are the abyss. And you're not trying to avoid the abyss when you're climbing up, Tad. The abyss is coming up to help you. Because you're their fucking boss now. But so you're fighting the Radiance, and the abyss, you know, hating the sun, starts crawling up, and like after you beat the first phase, but these big tendrils come out and grab the Radiance and trying to pull it down, but it breaks out, and then you have to keep fighting it. Then you climb up, and as you're climbing up, other little like vessels start flying up into the air, like to follow you to help you like, beat it. And then
that was fucking cool.
Because again, you're their lord. Once you get up and smack it to activate like the big final part, fucking like you turn into like your big like evil void form, and then the Hollow Knight himself comes up, grabs the Radiance, like peels open its fucking head, and then you smack the hell out of it. Which, by the way, when I first did it, I kind of sat there for a second like, wait, does it want me to hit X? Oh, it does. All right. And started smacking the fuck out of it to beat the game. But yeah, that's why you're doing it. Radiance was big and controlly. King said no, fuck that. Radiance said no, fuck you, and they were just battling each other basically. And then the king made you to do this. And since you being like basically a living robot, I guess I want to call it, you go on, you do your little quest to do that.
And see, and that's all fine and dandy, but I felt like the game was pulling towards something completely different.
You figured
With
you were gonna fight the king.
Yeah, because here's what the game was pointing out to me as you were going along. Like, there's this sort of infection thing. There's some reason, there's this thing happening. There's a lot of people who are commenting like, hey, like people in the game are like, is this like, like where the fuck did this come from? Like we can't get rid of it. Where's it? Where the fuck is it coming from? You know. And so what I was thinking was like, okay, is there like a fucking, like, okay, is this coming from deep inside the bugs? Why are they suddenly doing this? Like like the game keeps asking questions about where the source of it is and why they can't just get rid of it. And then you find this entire area, which is like, so there's soul, which is like magic power in the game, and it's not really super well explained what soul is. I expected it to be much more important. And like the king's like doing all these fucked up experiments with it, trying to get rid of this weird infection thing. And then eventually the king's like, nah, fuck off, I got this. I got these soul vessel dudes that I'm going to use now. And then one of the bosses didn't like that and went nutso and did his whole dumb bullshit. But like, what I expected the game to do was I expected it to like pull more towards the soul aspect and show like fucking. I didn't expect it to just be like, oh yeah, there was this thing going on the entire time that like we didn't like. Yeah, you could tell that people were talking about Radiant stuff, but I mean, oh yeah, there was a moth god. Okay,
Well,
anyway, go fight it.
Is, the game does hint at that, and you kind of noticed it, but you didn't. The Hollow Nest seal or the big statue are the Radiants, because City of Tears was built when the Radiants was still in charge. If you notice, the Hollow Nest like seal isn't in White Palace. At least I don't recall it being there. It was instead statues of the king himself. But like, that has that, and there's also the seer lady who wakes you up after you get the dream nail because you pass out. If you keep talking to her, she mentions like the old like bright light or whatever, because her being a moth was one of the creatures created by the Radiants. Like they actually hint towards her, and again, what a nice stylistic choice. But every time you beat an infected boss, it lets out the Radiance's like scream. So the game was actually hinting towards it the whole time. You just were expecting something else.
And I guess, I mean, I'm not saying that the game like didn't entirely expect, nah, it's out of nowhere here, because you're right, the game was showing it off, but it just felt like kind of lame to me. I expected it to be something more interesting than old god was kind of pissed and like put forth this magic bullshit to make everyone like super crazy and like punch shit and go nuts.
Yeah,
because
but
it was being
if
an
it was
asshole.
just like you fight the king, then it would literally just be Dark Souls, which I keep saying like that it's a lot like Dark Souls and it's taking a lot of inspiration from it, and it very clearly shows. But what I find funny is that during the Ask Me Anything, because I want to make sure I put this up in the episode somewhere, is that they said I didn't even really play Dark Souls that much. One of the developers, like, I got to the crystal place and got stuck. Most of my inspiration for this game comes from like older adventure games. He listed a bunch of them off, but I specifically remember one of them being like Zelda 2, which was the 2D platformer one. But like, I just find that really funny that even though he didn't play a lot of Dark Souls and he played all these other games, how much like it still feels like it was inspired by it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, and definitely I'm complaining about how the story went, and like even then, like this is still a game that's really fucking good. Like I would like, Alex mentioned this earlier, and I agree with this entirely because I feel the exact same way. As soon as I finished the game, I was like, oh, cool. I think we're going to start a new file and go through it again. Mm-hmm. After 100%ing the game. Which, even with Breath of the Wild... Well, with Breath of the Wild, I was like, okay. I spent 179 hours on this. I can't start a new file because I literally won't have the time to keep doing this. I have to wait. So, like, it's the same thing. Like, Hollow Knight was much shorter. I can go ahead and do that shit again. I can run in fucking... I can go goddamn Steel Soul mode, get 100% of these fucking Chivos if I want. And I very well might, because it was a really fun game. 10 out of 10, best game ever. It's in... Okay, I did like Shovel Knight a bit more. I will say that. I enjoyed Shovel Knight more than Hollow Knight, but they're both goddamn... sweet games.
They're a little hard to compare though, because
They're completely different genres.
Shovel Knight is a quick level select platformer that has Mega Man bosses, while fucking Hollow Knight's a Metroidvania.
Literally the same thing.
Oh, okay, sure, whatever.
It's
Anyway,
like comparing Super Smash Brothers to like Street Fighter. You know, comparing a fighting game to something completely unrelated. Please laugh.
anyway. Hollow Knight was a shitload of fun, completely well-designed game, and if you're making a Kickstarter game, you should take inspiration from the successes and not the failures.
Yep, I give this let me tell you about stamp of approval for a pretty good Kickstarter game.